My 24F boyfriend 24M wants to move in together, but after we went on a trip I don't want to. How do I tell him? We have been together for 1 year, but have only spent 1 or 2 nights together continuously, because we have busy schedules. My BF wants me to move in with him ASAP. And I told him I would in a few months, but we went on a trip and I saw a different side to him that I hate. My boyfriend has this hurtful habit of making offensive jokes, specifically about appearance. I feel bad saying this, but my BF is in no position to make comments about appearances. He's pretty overweight, but I don't care and have never mentioned it. He started making jokes about my arms being massive and like Popeye when I was getting ready for dinner. I got upset and started to cry. I felt so insecure. I'm very fit and muscular, and I'm always worried I look masculine, so it's a hurtful spot for me. When I started to cry, he walked out of the hotel and slammed the door behind him and said, "When you're ready, I'll be downstairs." We had a conversation where he told me he's pissed off that I'm upset, that I can't take a joke, and he's sick of having to watch everything he says around me. In the end, he promised me he wouldn't comment negatively on my appearance anymore. 2 hours later we were looking at photos, and he says, "Wow, your makeup was actually **** up today." I was really bothered by his behavior on the flight back home. It was only a 5-hour flight, but he was ordering so much food, leaving mess everywhere. He left his AirPods and his suitcase in the overhead locker and expected me to get out and make a hassle and get them out for him. He wasn't even 100% sure they were in there. When I said I don't really feel like waking up the guy next to me to scramble looking for his AirPods, he rolled his eyes and turned his back to me. Here's the real kicker. The flight attendant was giving clear instructions to please buckle seatbelts and turn phones on flight mode, but my BF was blatantly ignoring her and trying to upload selfies on Instagram. I asked him if he could please listen to her, and he completely flipped and said, "Why do you have to piss me off all the time? You're not my mother. I'll do whatever I please. Don't tell me what to do." I was so embarrassed that he said that in public, so I snapped back and said, "Well, stop acting like a child then." My BF replies, "No, you are the child. You don't know anything." I just closed my eyes and tried to nap. I was holding back tears at this point. After 10 minutes, he tried to hold my hand and told me, "You know I love you. I'll always love you. My heart belongs to you." Throughout the trip, I just felt like everything was about what he wanted. On one of the days, I told him it's best if we do our own thing, to which he agreed. We were only apart for 8 hours, but he called me a few times, asking what I was doing. When we met up again, he told me he missed me and was worried about me. He was thinking about me the whole time. For me, it was the complete opposite. Without him I felt peace. Despite all of this, my BF is always kissing me and cuddling me, telling me he loves me. When I went home after we got back from the trip, he said he's so sad to go home without me and he wishes we lived together. But his behavior on this trip turned me off him completely. How do I tell him I don't want to move in? He's going to be hurt, I know it. TLDR, my BF and I plan to move in together in a few months, but his behavior on a trip was horrible and I don't want to move in anymore. How do I tell him?
Am I the asshole for not sharing my only plate? Pregnant woman. I recently found out I have a gluten allergy, which explains all of the stomach pains and aches I've had with trying to eat anything my whole life. Since finding out about the allergy, I've been making sure to avoid that contain trace amounts of gluten, because even a small amount causes indigestion and in some cases vomit. I was invited out to breakfast with some of my friends, and I let them know of the allergy so we could pick somewhere that actually had food. The place we settled on is a really high-end breakfast restaurant that has a whole separate kitchen, or at least section of kitchen, for preparing their food without gluten, which was a lifesaver, since had that not been the case, I would have skipped the restaurant entirely. Included in my friends a couple who recently got pregnant. We can call them Emma and Via. Via is the one who is pregnant and said she wouldn't be having much since she wasn't feeling very well the morning sickness. Everyone understood and offered to let her just have a few bites off their plates so she could still have something nice, even if it was just a little. I didn't agree to this though, since if they were going to be sharing with each other, I couldn't take part. I explained me not feeling like sharing since I'd just be getting food without getting any, and all my friends seemed to completely understand, as well as agree that was very fair. When the food came out, everyone was sharing and having a good time. Via asked if she could have a bite of my food, and I politely declined sharing since I could grab a different bite than anyone else. Via told me her pregnancy cravings were kicking, and all she was asking for was a couple bites, so I should have just given that to her. I told her again I'd already explained I didn't want to share since my food was all I had. Emma told me I could just give her half and order more food if I wasn't satisfied with the amount left, and I again told them the gluten-free options were quite a bit more expensive than what they were eating, and paying for 2 plates just so Via could have half my food didn't seem fair. Via then told me just because I was on a diet didn't mean I could be selfish, and everyone else had no issues sharing. Thankfully, the rest of the people sitting there did help me stand up for myself and told Via I'd already explained I wouldn't be sharing since no one shared back. Well, I'd ordered an egg scramble and some gluten-free pancakes. Everyone else had normal pancakes, French toast, avocado toast, and other things I just couldn't eat. Vita wasn't satisfied there in my justification to why she couldn't have any of my food. She went on and on about how I turned the whole table against her and shamed her for being pregnant and hungry. I told her if she'd gotten her appetite back, she could always order herself late so she didn't have to rely on anyone sharing their food. Via went off at this and told me about all the things she's needed pay for in preparation of her and Emma's baby. She told me I was being selfish and heartless because I didn't want to give her half my plate when I can afford to do so. This is where I may be the a-hole because I told Via she chose to get pregnant and she chose to go through all of the issues that come. I didn't chose to have a glucose salad and I didn't want to go hungry because she wanted to eat off everyone else for free. Via started ugly crying and everyone tried to calm her down, but she and Emma ended up just leaving without paying their portion of the bill. No one blamed me since I was right, but Emma sent me a message telling I could have just said no and left it at that instead of embarrassing Via in front of all her friends. I'm starting to feel very guilty. I didn't want either of them to leave. I just wanted her to stop trying to leverage her pregnancy against me as a way to get the only food I eat. aita, ETA, trying to answer some of the most answered questions. Yes, Emma did get a plate. She claimed it was too sweet for Via and she should grab a less sweet bite of everyone else's plate. The reason it went from one bite to half my food, which was one pancake of my two, was because she assumed mine was less sweet due to being gluten-free. I don't think that's the case, but that was just her logic. The group agreed wouldn't be spending as much time with either Emma or Via. Ever since getting married, the two of their bitchiness aspects have combined. We also did send them a Venmo request for their part of the bill. They've been told they can either pay the bill or they can never come out to eat with us again.
Am I the asshole for telling my husband I'm leaving him when he was in the middle of a meltdown? My husband and I have been together for 8 years now. I have 2 sons from my previous marriage, 13 and 9, and I just gave birth to me and my husband's daughter 3 months ago. Prior to me giving birth and even a few weeks following, our home life was great. We often had friends telling us they wish they could find someone that made them as happy as him and I made each other. There was hardly ever any disagreements. Our communication was solid. He was fantastic, my boys, attending every parent-teacher conference, doctor's appointment, school event, etc., and took them out often to play baseball and basketball. This owl changed after maybe 2-3 weeks after I gave birth. He turned angry, depressed, and impatient. Me and the kids started having to constantly walk on eggshells. He became lazy, such as stopped cleaning up after himself or helping around the house, yet still used sentences to my kids such as, "You guys pick up after yourself. Me and your mother shouldn't have to follow you around, clean up your messes when never did at all." I couldn't even get him to wash his own dinner plate without having a meltdown basically. Every day he was just angry. If one thing went wrong, like him not being able to find something he set down somewhere, which became an everyday event, he was freaking out, saying things like, "Yep, awesome, so glad life wants to fuck me over," or "Why the fuck does this always happen to me? Can't I just have a good fucking day for once?" But he always made it a kid's problem. If he lost something, it didn't matter what time of day it was, he was 100% flipping out and expecting me to find it for him. I even told him my oldest son had to go to the ER because he had a bad rash, and he goes, "Have your mom take him," because he was using my vehicle. Or the other day my mood has been sour due to his early morning freak out and it out me on a rough route. I was exhausted, running on 3 hours of sleep, and he rushed me out of the house to go do his errands with him. I didn't even get out of the car, so it was pointless. And then gets pissed and screams, "What the fuck is your problem? Can't we just have a good day for once?" As if I am the reason his life sucks, and this is not the man I married. So last night around 11:30 p.m. he starts freaking out again. He lost an important item needed for work. He starts slamming things around our bedroom, repeatedly saying things like "fucking great," "fucking awesome," "fucking love it," until I got up and start helping him look. As soon as I get up out of bed, he stops looking and just walks behind holding his phone's flashlight. We can't find it. He doesn't go to work as a result, another trait he's gotten since giving birth. He literally calls out over the wind blowing wrong. I lay back down. He practically body slams the bed beside, starts huffing and puffing, heavy sighing, growling while practically clawing at his face, talking about how fucking stupid this life is. I asked him to stop and he says, "Fuck you." So I tell him I'm done, I'm leaving, and that me and my children's shit will be out of the home by today. He says, "What the fuck ever," and goes to sleep. I wake up at 5 a.m. and start packing. He comes out around 7 asking what I'm doing, and I tell him again that I'm done and I'm leaving. He says I'm leaving him in his time of and would never do that to, but he kind of did because I was diagnosed with ED not 4 days after giving birth. Completely overrode it, made it about him and how much his life sucks. X, I know you're feeling some type of way, but I have shit going on too. No one asks me how the fuck I am, or literally making passive-aggressive comments like "wish I could sleep all day" when I was 6 days postpartum after I fell asleep on the couch. He does no nighttime duty. As I said, he says I'm leaving him in his time of and that I should have urged him to get therapy instead of walking away. But his anger has made me hate him. I don't even want to be near him. ETA, I'm just going to reiterate what I've said to some commenters. I have tried talking to him about this. It's an immediate blame shift the second that I bring up anything that is bothering. He says I'm attacking him. Says things like as if you don't have fucking issues that I have to deal with every day. Tells me it's all in my head and has even called me a narcissist quite a few times in the past 2 months. Claiming that I'm accusing him of things because things aren't going my way. Often says he does everything and that me and my kids don't respect him. So I have tried talking to him. He's completely defensive and refuses to actually speak on issues. Outside of one single time when he was drinking and admitted that he's being an asshole and that we don't deserve to be treated this way. Am I the asshole for not wanting to mend things with my daughter? My ex and I, 49M, were married for 2 years and had a daughter before I discovered her affair, but she took her own life during the divorce. I stayed close to my in-law because I didn't want to take away their granddaughter, but that was a mistake because they secretly hated and were turning my daughter against me. By the time I found out, it was too late and daughter hated. She was fighting with me, broke many things in the house and ran away multiple times. I tried to explain to her what happened, but she wouldn't believe me. My family also tried in vain. At one point, I couldn't take it anymore and let her go live with her grandparents, and she cut all contact. After a year of waiting, I had enough and moved to Canada to try to build my life. She was 14 when I left. Recently, I learned that my father passed away and I wanted to fly back, but my brother told me that my daughter was present. Apparently, as she grew up, she understood many things and realized her grandparents were lying. She cut contact with them and was rebuilding a relationship with my brother and father. They didn't let her contact me because I was still in a bad place. And frankly, I'm still am. I'm not sure I want her in my life again. I know she was just a kid back then, and now she is an adult 22F now. But even with that, I'm not sure. I need advice. Edit. I am quite surprised by the replies. I asked for help with my daughter and what I get are attacks to my manhood. It is quite funny when I receive messages of people insulting and telling me to grow up when these people are reaching out to me and insulting me because they were displeased by my story, a story they saw on internet too. The adult thing to do would have been to simply not reply. Thanks to those who provide answers and support. I really appreciate it. Anyways, I called my brother back and we agreed that we'll try to repair our relationship after the funeral. For now, we'll mourn my father.
My friend suddenly included his girlfriend in our holiday vacation and wanted me to pay for her accommodation. So I ruined their vacation and cancelled everything. My friend and I booked to go to an island we'd both been keen to go to. We booked a 2-bed cabin and because of the popularity of the place we had to book and pay 10 months in advance. We split to cost 50-50. 2 months before we are due to go, he meets someone and they commence dating. The holiday came up, and understandably she was a bit uncomfortable with him coming with me. I was given an ultimatum: either she comes or the entire holiday is called off. I didn't say yes immediately, because I needed to check with the accommodation as the island has a limited number of guests allowed and I needed the okay from them first. My hesitation wasn't taken well, they thought I wasn't keen. I got back to them within 24 hours and said I'd gotten the all clear for his girlfriend to also come and she could book plane tickets for her. A week later he informed me she had the tickets, and I asked him we could discuss rebalancing the accommodation costs now that there were 3 of us coming, as it should now be a 3-way split. I was surprised that he responded with anger. As far as he was concerned, the accommodation was paid for and it was wrong and greedy of me to expect money from his girlfriend. He told me that he was paying for the entire holiday for his girlfriend, so it was still going to be just him and me paying, so it was unfair of me to not pay for half. I told him that there were 3 adults, 3 people, a way split. If he chose to pay for his girlfriend's third, that was his choice and nothing to do with me. He told me his girlfriend was going to buy me a cocktail to say thank you for the accommodation, but if I was going to insist on a split then I could forget it and buy my own damn cocktails, as he couldn't believe I was being so selfish. The thing is, a cocktail is $15, and I was currently covering half her accommodation costs $600. I don't think I was an asshole asking them to cover her share of the accommodation. I hadn't even met her yet, but they thought I should cover her costs because it was already paid for. Update: I called the accommodation and discussed options, then called my friend. I explained to him that we'd made the agreement to split everything equally when there were only 2 of us going, but I no longer felt that agreement was fair. I suggested the third option, splitting the cost of the communal areas 3 ways but setting cost per bedroom, and also stated that any food, activities, etc. wouldn't be split anymore, and we'd each be responsible for our own and they could decide as a couple how they were paying for themselves. It didn't go down well at all. He didn't see why he should be out of pocket because I decided to go against our agreement that I'm paying 50% of everything. I stuck to it and said that I'd be willing to negotiate the accommodation costs, but there was no way I was going to pay half for his GF's activities or her dinners and drinks, and it was ridiculous for him to think I should be paying half of his GF's costs, especially since she's a complete stranger and he'd already asked me to change all of our previous plans to suit her. He called me a B-word and told me I was acting crazy. I stopped him and said that from that, I don't think this holiday going to work, and I had spoken to the accommodation and I was going to cancel as of today. I told him if he still wanted to go, then the accommodation would hold open the booking for him for 72 hours, and if he confirmed with them I'd instructed them to hold on to $1,800 as what he'd contributed to the booking and refund me the rest, and his girlfriend and him would have to pay the hotel to finalize. If they didn't confirm, I'd get the refund for the whole amount and then forward him his share. He went quiet and then told me that since I was changing the rules at the last minute I should leave the entire accommodation payment because it wasn't his fault that I no longer wanted to go, leaving them in the lurch, and I would be ruining his holiday with his girlfriend. I told him I was canceling and I would definitely not be paying for any accommodation I wouldn't be using. I might have been a little petty when I told him he'd still be paying for his girlfriend's costs. It'll just be a little bit more than he was expecting because I was no longer going to subsidize them. I canceled my flights and the accommodation and emailed him all the details.
Wibda, if I told my family I will not be coming down for Christmas after excluding me from a family cruise? Here's a little background information. I, 26F, have 2 kids, 4 years and 6 months, with my boyfriend 34M, and we've been together about 5.5 years. When I was 19 I moved about 9 hours away, and once I had kids I started going back to my hometown for the holidays so my grandma and my family could see my kids. Last year I didn't make it home as I was 35 weeks pregnant and graduating college. My grandma turns 80 next year and my family decided to go on a family cruise to Alaska, and me and my partner are the only ones not invited. I found out about the cruise from my uncle who lives about 30 minutes away from me last December and that I was not included. I texted my sister and my aunt about how I was hurt that I wasn't included and what the deal was. No answer. So I called my grandma. Well, she was very vague about the whole thing, and I guess it was a surprise for her birthday, which I did not know. If I never would have said anything to her. Anyways, my aunt and sister eventually tell me that they were just waiting till after Christmas to invite me and that I was included. Well, Christmas came and went and I never received any information on it. Also at my graduation/baby sprinkles, my aunt tells me, well, instead of the family cruise, we are gonna send you on a Disney cruise when your new baby turns 4, which I thought was weird because how does that equate to the same as a family cruise? And also I can afford to send myself and my family on our own Disney cruise if we wanted to do that. I literally took my family to Disney World earlier that October. Anyways, I recently went back home so my family could meet the new baby, and the cruise gets brought up multiple times. And now the excuse is, well, this just isn't a cruise for kids, which again is weird because I've gone on vacation without my kids, and if they wanted an adult-only cruise, that's fine, so I could make that work. The whole situation is weird and hurtful, and I am convinced my family does not like me. They love me, but do not like me. I just wanted to tell them I'm not coming to Christmas. Edit. Since a lot of people are confused, I am going to give a better timeline. My baby is currently 6 months old. I was 35 weeks pregnant with her when I found out about the cruise. The cruise isn't until 2025, and the baby will be around 18 months old. If it was an adult-only cruise, I would 100% respect that and I would find childcare, or I would not go, but I believe that should be my decision to make. 2. Even if it wasn't adult-only, I probably still wouldn't bring an 18-month-old and an almost 5-year-old on the cruise. I might, but I probably wouldn't. It would depend on a lot of things. But again, I feel that should be my decision. No, I do not dump my kids on other people or take advantage to any extra help. Also, no, my kids do not have terrible behavior and they are very normal and do age-appropriate things, but I am a very active parent. I don't let things slide and I discipline when necessary. They have never destroyed or ruined anything. Neither have I, and I do not own anyone money. Also, as some people think this is relevant information, and I do not, I'll put her anyways. This is my mom's side of the family. My mom and dad are divorced and it was a terrible divorce. They do not speak. Secondly, the only people that currently speak to my mom are me and my uncle and sometimes my grandma. The reason my family and my mom don't speak have nothing to do with me or this cruise or why I wasn't invited. Yes, me and my sister have the same mom. Also, my family is not racist. They love my partner and they love my kids and they do not care they are mixed. Edit 2. I do not expect anyone but me to pay for me or my family/partner on this cruise.